Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Xolani. I use they, them pronouns. Let's talk about uncrossing in hoodoo. So first and foremost, uncrossing within hoodoo is going to be one of those traditional practices or class of rituals that are paramount and foundational to hoodoo. The reason I say it's foundational is because it is at the very heart of the creation of hoodoo. You can go back to my Hoodoo 101 series where I speak about what is hoodoo and I talk about some of the originating influences in there. So calling that into your memory and into your mind and thinking about uncrossing at the same time, I want you to know that our ancestors understood, and I understand, uncrossing as a way to remember and reclaim our birthright. So in a lot of circles, especially in some of the more old school circles of hoodoo, they believe that uncrossing came before even what we know as like road opening or blockbuster work. We understand uncrossing came first, okay? One of the things I spoke about in the Saint Expedite video, I think, Psalm 91, about God gave their ancestors, God gave their angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. And I talked about like, oh, one of my ways is peace. But I want you to think about that a little bit more deeply in your own spiritual practice, right? What are your ways? Meaning, what is your nature? What is at your core? What is innate to you? This is one of the reasons why Psalm 23 is so prominent in, across the board, but also in hoodoo, where it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That's one of my ways, right? Make me to lie down in green pastures. They lead me beside the still waters. They restore my soul. These are speaking about some of those innate ways or how we might view the nature of humanity, of humankind. In fact, a lot of Genesis, a lot of the Bible speaks about the human condition, period. And we could have another conversation, or we won't have another conversation, not on YouTube, but for my hoodoo babies, people who sign up for my classes, and when we do other works, behind the scenes where it's just us and we get to converse and collaborate with each other, I think that would be a great conversation to be had about what are the political ethics of the Bible. Honey, people talk about that and have that conversation, but I would love to have it through a hoodoo lens, through a Black queer femme lens, through a neurodivergent lens. I think that would be a great conversation to be had. Let's side table that for now. Knowing that our ancestors understood our innate nature, right? Our rhythm, our ways of being in our body, of being with each other, in relationship with each other, of being with the earth and on earth. Uncrossing, again, as a way of remembering this birthright and remembering our ways and our innateness, is almost that first ritual, right? Because it's what are the things that I can do to remember the rhythm of home, the rhythm of, West and Central Africa, the rhythm of the tribes that I came from, the rhythm of the knowledge that I know. So uncrossing holds a special place in my heart, and I want it to hold a special place in yours. There are many ways to be crossed up, and I'm going to speak more specifically to one single way, one that is rooted in all the other ways that we get crossed up in our lives. So I'm thinking about John Locke, who is a white British philosopher, and he wrote his treatise of government. The second one he wrote in 1690. I don't know when he wrote the other one, to be fair, to be honest. But there was this quote in chapter 3, it's section 17. I want to read it for you all. It says, "And hence it is that he who attempts to get another man into his absolute power does thereby put himself into a state of war with him, it being to be understood as a declaration of a design upon his life. For I have reason to conclude that he who would get me into his power without my consent would use me as he pleased when he had got me there, and destroy me too when he had a fancy to it. For nobody can desire to have me in his absolute power unless it be to compel me by force to that which is against the right of my freedom. i.e., make me a slave. To be free from such force is the only security of my preservation, and reason bids me look on him as an enemy to my preservation. Who would take away that freedom, which is the fence to it, so that he who makes an attempt to enslave me thereby puts himself into a state of war with me? And I know somebody's out there, Xolani, why are you bringing up white philosophers? Babe, because you need the information, and the information is relevant to what I'm about to say, okay? So with this information, first, this is evidence that colonizers knew exactly what they were doing when they put people into slavery, when they trafficked people into slavery and kidnapped our ancestors into chattel slavery and into this system. They knew exactly what they were doing. And also, I invoke this because John Locke's, his treatise of government are the basis to the Constitution of the United States. So the very basis to our political system here in America, if you're in America as well. And I would say Western civilization, the basis of politic and government in Western civilization. There we go. So the reason that I bring this up is because I want you to know when you need to uncross yourself from something, okay? When something is trying to compel you by force or put its absolute power over you, so it is impending upon, right, or disturbing your autonomy or that nature and those innate ways of being that I spoke about in the beginning of this video. So if it's obstructing that, if it is trying to block that, cause havoc against that, or break that down, or your relationship with your nature, with your innate self, these are things that we often want to uncross ourselves from, okay? I love the phrase, an enemy to my preservation. So anything that is an enemy to your preservation, one, of course, you want to pray for protection over. And sometimes before we become clear on what that thing is, as we become clear on what that thing is, we sometimes realize, oh, it already seeped in. Like, it's been there. They've been in my head. They've been in marketing and advertising. They've been in academia. They've been in X, Y, and Z. So when we are uncrossing ourselves, remember uncrossing as a way of remembering this birthright, remembering and reclaiming this birthright and these ways of knowing and our innateness of being, right? This is to preserve yourself. This is to ground yourself in the security of preservation, to ground yourself in the security of autonomy, yes, and agency. Now, that particular quote that I just shared with you all and what I just stated also makes me think of the Devil card in tarot. And I'm going to show you all two examples of the Devil card. This one is from the Modern Witch Tarot. I'm so sorry if that is reversed or backwards, but it is reminiscent of the Rider-Waite Tarot. And so you'll notice that the Devil card and these two people are chained up. They're bound by something, yes? There's a binding. And then this one comes from, I believe it's called the Next World Tarot, yeah. And I'm sorry if you cannot read it, but I want you to take a look at what's here. What are the things, when you look into this card, you can even pause the video if you'd like. What are the things that are pictured here that would be an enemy to your preservation? And that's a visual, because I'm a visual learner as well. But some of you don't need that visual to know what is an enemy to your preservation. But I do want to talk about the devil for a moment. When we think about the devil, and I'm specifically thinking about this imagery once again, with them being bound up in chains. And I'm thinking about that John Locke quote, and I'm thinking about what it feels like to actually be crossed up in something. I think about how the devil will keep you in a cycle. It'll keep you in a pattern, specifically patterns that are not conducive to your well-being, not conducive to your innateness, your human nature, that which is yours. The devil will prevent you from attuning to and recalibrating to your innate rhythm, that which is yours, that which is your ancestors, that which helps you to recognize, right, when people, places, and things are safe or safer for you to exist in, for you to show your full and total self. So I'm thinking about those cycles, and I've got a little visual here. And the way that it works is that you keep going in these cycles. Let me see, there we go. You keep going in these cycles, and at first it's like, okay, that's not too bad. I can break out of that, right? Like, that's not too hard. But then you are steeped in academia. Oh, you're challenged by the medical industrial complex. There's no representation of you anywhere, or your identities or intersections. You believe what they say about how you're supposed to show up in romantic relationships. You believe what they say about X, Y, and Z. And you continue and continue and continue until you are all bound up. The devil keeps you in these cycles, yes, to prevent you from recalibrating and attuning to your own rhythm, but to keep you in the rhythm of, or in service to, the enemies of your preservation. Did y'all hear that? The devil will keep you in cycles in order to keep you in service to enemies of your preservation. This is what being crossed up looks like. Okay? So with that in mind, again, uncrossing is one of the most important ritual processes that we have in hoodoo, and there are many ways to do it. So I'm going to tell you all about a couple of herbs, a couple of our plant allies that are assisting us and helping us in this task. And then I'm going to show you all a bath that I really like to create when I'm doing this. Now, I gave you all like that rooted, when I say rooted, I mean like in the context of root work in hoodoo, that root definition for you to think about uncrossing, but it shows up in other ways. People get crossed up all the time. If you work in retail, if you work in the corporate world, if you work a 9-to-5 period, and you have that surveillance on you to perform in a specific way and in a specific time, in a format that doesn't really work for you, but maybe you have to mask, even if you're not neurodivergent, or neuroexpansive, and you're still masking in order to perform this able-bodiedness, right, and this productivity. So people in those positions are often crossed up all the time. Sometimes, yes, people throw stuff at you to get you crossed up. Sometimes people are petty, and they're coming from a place of scarcity where they still think that, it's a dog-eat-dog world and I have to climb over this person in order to get to where I'm going. People will throw out stuff in that way. Sometimes we cross ourselves up because we begin to, the longer that we stay here, we begin to believe that this is who we are. And so we don't have a true mirror or reflection or image projecting back to ourselves, right? That image is then the image of the colonizer. That image is made in the memory of the colonizer, in the memory of capitalism, in the imagination of capitalism. And as a side note, capitalism's imagination is dusty as fuck, okay? It's not actually imaginative. It's not at all. It wants you to be a slave. It wants you to work 9-to-5 and have no energy for your friends, yourself, your relationships, any type of care or need or anything like that. It wants you to be well enough or healthy enough to get your ass to work, do this thing that we said we're going to do, and for you to go home and sleep and then do that cycle all over again. So capitalism's imagination is dusty. But if that is all that we do and we get wound up in that and we get caught up in that cyclical nature where we don't challenge it or where it never does get challenged, right? That's how we then begin to see ourselves, because that's all that's projected back to us. Yes. When you feel crossed up, you feel really trapped. You feel like I'm not living in my purpose. I don't know what my purpose is, but it ain't this, right? That's when you get fed up, right? Before you start to do those uncrossing works. You might feel like you are doubting yourself a lot, like you are attacking yourself. I know people have imposter syndrome, and I don't want to say that it doesn't exist. I don't want to say that. And a lot of that is because their vision of themselves, the image that is projected of themselves is steeped in colonizer or capitalism's mind and memory or imagination. And they haven't yet broken free from that. And I want to say, this is a caveat here, it is hard. It is hard. I'm speaking about this and I want to give this information to you all. I still struggle with it often. I still have the thoughts like, oh, I don't have nothing to share. Like, I don't have, wisdom to share with these people. I don't have anything new to share with these people. So-and-so is already doing it, so I don't need to do it. And get really down on myself. And in the imagination, mind, and memory of the colonizer or capitalism or racialized surveillance as well, let's throw that in there. In the imagination, mind, and memory of capitalism, it wants you to shrink yourself. It wants you to shrink on yourself. It bets on you shrinking yourself, because it wants you to stay bound and to stay trapped in the system so that you can continue this, and it can continue for generation and generation upon generation. Child, I done got high. I started speaking the truth and I done got hot, okay? Okay, so let's get into some of these herbs. Yes, let's get into some of these herbs. So a couple of herbs that I want you all to know and have in your arsenal for uncrossing work: rue, R-U-E, hyssop, devil's shoestring, and camphor. Camphor essential oil for aromatherapy, or you can find the blocks. I think I have some here. You can find the blocks and you can burn these on charcoal discs to cleanse the air. Yes. Oh, you know what? With that in mind, menthol. If you're doing aromatherapy type things, menthol, but just a little bit because it's really strong. Now, before I recorded this video, I sat with hyssop and I sat with rue and I asked what messages they have for you all for this video and for when you are going to prepare your rituals and your baths, or just so you have some extra information on them. This information is not something that you can Google. This is what I get from the relationship that I have with these herbs. And as you establish relationship with herbs, whatever herbs you choose to, they will speak more clearly to you as well, and you'll be able to download and translate those messages also. I hope to do a video in the future about that, but in the meantime, if you want to know more about that, you can sign up for Hoodoo Foundations, because I'm going to be teaching again starting in September. So if you want to be one of my Hoodoo babies and you want to get even more in depth that I'm getting in these videos, I highly recommend that you sign up. Hyssop told me, I am that I am. The feeling of taking a deep breath, that feeling of orgasmic consciousness or post-nut clarity. And it feels like, okay, everything's in order now. Hyssop told me that it is cleansing and generative. And what it meant by that is it gave me the vision of a hazard on the road and causing backup, like traffic backup. And then once that hazard gets cleared out of the way, the congestion eases because the cars are able to move through again. So similar to that, cleansing and generative. So it makes a way and clears the congestion so things can get moving again. Hyssop wants to remind you that you are pure and holy. You don't have to compartmentalize yourself. And there was also the feeling of your feet being back on the ground after taking a long flight, the essence of arriving safely. So these are some of the messages that Hyssop had given me for this particular video, okay? And then when I sat with and meditated with Rue, here are some of the messages that Rue gave me. Mother Rue said, I am matter of fact, no juice, no chaser, direct and direction. Get your head on straight. Okay. I said, okay, yes, ma'am. I felt a warmth in my hands when I was holding this herb. And Rue said it will strip or burn away anything unnecessary to reveal what is real. It's a truth teller, and you must have courage to know the truth. It makes space for that truth to be revealed. So sitting with those herbs and getting those messages, I'm just giving you those. I'm not going to, in my human brain and body, and I'm not going to try to be like, oh, this is what they meant, da da da. That's what they said. Take it how you want to take it, okay? So real quick, let me teach you all how to create this bath. This bath is for general spiritual maintenance, okay? I asked the herbs if they wanted to provide protocol, like how many days, and they did not. They said ask your ancestors, okay? So with this bath, I am thinking of it as like weekly spiritual care, spiritual hygiene, where you are just releasing things that do not serve you, releasing things that are blocking you from your ancestral memory, mind, and imagination. Any mind and memory of the colonizer that you may have picked up that doesn't belong to you and or is sticking to you and that you want to wash or rinse yourself off of, yes, or rinse it off of you. So you want to speak with your herbs first, give thanks, and ask that their essence be in collaboration with you and that you both benefit from the medicine within them. You'll bring a pot of water to boil and add some of both of these herbs, hyssop and rue. You don't need a whole lot if you're just making a single bath, but if you're making, multiple days, maybe you want to add more. That's fine. And because they are both so strong and potent in their cleansing abilities, you can always add something else to sweeten it a little bit if it's too strong, such as a little bit of rose. Sometimes even peppermint. I know peppermint can also be cleansing, but peppermint also has this sweetening essence to it. So sometimes a little peppermint might work too. You'll turn the water off. So you don't want these to actually boil. You'll turn the water off. Stir and speak your prayers. And then you are going to let this sit for about 20 to 30 minutes. After it sits, you'll notice that the herbs have settled all the way down. The water might even be a different color. You'll strain it. This is going to make your cleanup a lot easier. So I prefer it this way. If you don't have to strain it. You can put it in the bath if you want to clean your tub out afterwards. That's fine. All right. After you've strained it, make sure that it's cool enough that it won't burn your skin. And some people let it cool all the way down until it's room temperature, which would feel cold on the body. You are then going to pour this all over your body from the neck down to your feet at the end of your shower, or you can add it to a bath that you will soak in for at least 15 minutes. You will air dry and allow the medicine to seep into your skin and your energy body. Give thanks. Wear light colors, preferably all white, but it's okay if you don't have that. And you will go to sleep. So this is something that you want to do at night. Now, because you are in a raw state, it might be nice to wear a protection or healing oil on your body afterwards. Now, my last couple of tips. Yes, there are some psalms that you could use for these. I think it's great if you create your own prayer, though. With hyssop specifically, I always pray Psalm 51 because hyssop is actually mentioned in there. Purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean. Wash me and I shall be whiter than snow. So that is great. You can have that. It's in your arsenal. It's easy to utilize. But if that doesn't resonate with you, you don't like using the Psalms or the Bible, don't use it. You can use your own prayers and establish a relationship with the plants in a way that is resonant and affirming to you and your spirit and who you are. Yes. Now, my last tip is don't be afraid to use uncrossing in targeted areas, okay? So yes, I gave you all this big definition about, the colonizer's mind and imagination. We want to get rid of that. And it is really difficult to just totally unpot or depot ourselves and place ourselves, transplant ourselves somewhere else. You can be gentle with yourself and nobody should judge you for that, okay? I think I speak more about this in episode 1 of my podcast. So where I speak about Anansi, yes, and how we weave our collaborative communal imagination with our ancestors and with spirit and with each other. Now, you can take your time so you can put it in a targeted area. So for me, I have used uncrossing for the relationship I have with being neuroexpansive or neurodivergent, how I view living with ADHD and what it means to me, right? How I understand disability and mental illness. I have used uncrossing specifically for that. Like, I have prayed and cried, honey. It wasn't, honestly, it wasn't even praying. It was begging at this point. It was like, I am viewing myself like I hate myself. And this is not right. I shouldn't feel that way. And it's because of XYZ. So uncross the relationship that I have with my mind. uncross the way I understand being neurodivergent, being neuroexpansive, or having disability, having chronic pain. I have endometriosis. I live with pain in my body. So I uncross the relationship that I have with my body and the way that I view my body. Because remember, I don't want to be caught up in a memory that's not my own. So don't be afraid to use uncrossing rituals and the category of uncrossing in very targeted ways. Uncross your love life, right? In platonic, familial, and romantic relationships, uncross it so that you can open yourself up to the creativity, to the abundant creativity that our ancestors have of what it's like to connect to someone, yes? To see them as a divine mirror to you. What does it feel like to uncross your own imagination in your creative pursuits? Can you become more creative? Can you create something that you never imagined yourself creating? What does it feel like to uncross your identity, your gender, your sexuality, how you approach sensuality or the erotic, how you approach spirituality, right? So don't be afraid to target it specifically. And I'll say this too because, and I say it all the time, I don't think I'll ever teach like a webinar or class about money work. I don't know why, it's not really on my spirit. But you can also uncross your relationship with money because money has been tied up under capitalism, but money wants to roam free. Money loves reciprocity, loves generosity, loves receiving, loves giving. So you can uncross your relationship and how you view and understand money too. And that will help you in doing your money works also, okay? All right, I talked longer than I thought I was going to talk, and these earrings are heavy. So thank you for your time, attention, and your energy. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.